A lot of the times you see creators getting into trouble, doing things they probably shouldn't be doing with their platform. From encouraging minors to speak up about their not safe for work experiences, to mocking someone who's receiving death threats by your followers, the ultimate consensus being that the creator should have been responsible. And that leads me to the question I've been asking myself. What are creators responsible for? What should you be responsible for when making content? I'm Novely JPEG, and let's get to the point. I think there's 3 things in our checklist that creators should be responsible for: their audience, the content they create and digest, and their actions. I didn't think this needed to be said, but yeah, your actions have consequences. Crazy concept, I know. Just because you're quote unquote popular, it doesn't put you on a pedestal. You're not better than everyone, and you shouldn't treat yourself as such. But I think a lot of people confuse problematic behavior with just people they don't like. For example, Jelly Bean and EDP. No way are Jelly Bean and EDP said in the same sentence. Anyways, chat, my giggity gamers, nya. What separates both of their actions is one of them is just annoying. That pretty much was the whole drama when PNG tubers were blasting off. Looking back at the drama now, yeah, they're annoying. So what? I tend to say that just because people don't like you, it doesn't make you unreliable. You could have a quote unquote unlikable personality, but if you're showing and presenting facts, ultimately they're facts. Now, having a likable personality is just an instant W, because I do believe we're at a time where it's who's the most likable that comes out victorious. Because just what happened to Jelly Bean, public opinion has a lasting effect, then proving that you were right. But you can't win them all. In EDP's case,
okay, go ahead. Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake.
Must I say any more? I think this is the biggest distinction you can make. Don't antagonize someone you don't like because they have a bad personality, and instead call out those who are genuine bad people. Your actions can carry a lot of weight, and believe it or not, once you platform yourself, people look up to you. Some people try to avoid this by saying they're not a role model and they're just degenerates, but I don't think this argument works at all. Firstly, I don't think stating you're a degenerate is something you want to say out loud and proud, but who am I to judge? There's people who find Nemo in weird places. Secondly, just because you don't see yourself as a role model doesn't mean people don't look up to you as one. A prime example being Fiznom, an unfortunate situation where he did not enter the picture till the middle part, where a minor wanted to call FNAF Plus, Fiznom's game, boring because Fiznom said the same to FNAF Ruin, a DLC extension to Security Breach, which side note was heckin' amazing. I was squealing like a little girl. Anyways, his fans then sent the minor gore and disturbing content like that, where Fiznom replied mocking the person and sending a Rickroll apology, which is just completely not how you handle a situation, but also their apology wasn't, an apology, and that unfortunately led to them canceling their project. And this is a great segue into a creator's next responsibility: your audience. Your audience is a reflection of you. If you have a loud, obnoxious persona, your audience is bound to attract those type of people. And let's just get this out of the way. You are not responsible for anyone in your community. If it's known someone in your community is doing something you don't approve of, like sending death threats and or bullying a creator, or even sending IP grabbers, it is out of your control. You can't micromanage everyone, especially your community. But, big but actually, you cannot use that as an excuse to not send boundaries with your community. Coming back to Fiznom and the way he joked about it, at first it seemed as if sending gore and death threats to a minor was something to make light of, and could in fact encourage his audience to do the same. Now again, it's important to note that I use the word could, as there's no real confirmation that it fueled a fire, but it did paint him in a bad light. And that's the main thing. When someone in your community causes harm, it's your job to set the record straight and let people know you and your community do not tolerate that behavior, and to remove that person from your community. Also, your actions do affect your community. An unwarranted attack on a person can very much have your audience attack them and harass them if not handled properly, which is why I do heavily state and warn people not to harass or threaten those I talk about, and ultimately it is up to the viewer to make that choice than to have you influence their actions, if that makes sense. And personally, that's why I don't condone going after a person. We as humans love to trash talk, and I'm guilty of this too, but when you're a creator, you have to be that better person and know when to hold yourself back. Because there is a difference between arguing with a person for the sake of your position to just plain harassing someone and having your audience go and do the same. Granted, it's not all black and white, with the person also saying and supporting questionable things, but the point still stands. Your voice carries a lot of weight, especially when people look up to you and support you. Targeting someone is just unfavorable to me. Something I've learned now is that you only go after those involved and step in when people take shots at you. You do not need to throw the first punch, and most importantly, as you do for example commentary, when you speak on a person, you have to maintain that level of professionalism so as to not stoop yourself down to their level and potentially sour people's perception and water down your actions with your unjust actions. And that really does shine when you create and digest content. A thing that really does irk me for a long time is the soft corn porn type of thumbnails. It's an issue I know people recognize and an issue I see people don't really tend to regulate. I say this because this is one of the biggest issues that I feel we as creators do have a responsibility for. The content that we are creating and digesting. I say the content we create as, again, the over-sexualized thumbnails. This is one of the best examples of taking a look at fast-paced content and bright colors and flashy imagery. What does it do? It draws the attention of minors. And to excuse you doing that content for the sake of it's adult-oriented is just plain wrong. Especially in an environment like YouTube, where there's no indication and real measure to prevent these type of content not being pushed and consumed to children. For example, taking a look at furry memes and furry struggle types of videos, although I do not have any ill intent to these creators, it rubs me the wrong way when you look at furry memes and struggles and see how much of that is sexual jokes and or cropped porn. It really does highlight the over-sexualness of the furry fandom and things of that nature. I mean, take a look at Twitter. How much of those minors claim to be femboys and or have the programmer socks and or just act cutesy? I highly believe it's because of the content they have consumed here in this fandom that's unregulated and causes these personalities to become the norm. Because at the end of the day, sexual nature sells. And I strongly believe that's the sentiment we're pushing as we continue to create content and minors are picking up on that. And I would not be surprised if I am a hypocrite to this type of content as well. Also, what I mean when it comes to digest content, once again, with a potential audience of minors, it's important to separate the adult content you digest to regular safe for work content. Because if you have no guard besides saying you're suggestive, if there's no indication that you're 18 plus and minors aren't allowed in that space, it doesn't take rocket science to pop into your likes as a minor and see something they shouldn't and start a chain reaction. Now, I'm not saying don't consume NSFW content. If that's what you want, then go for it. I don't care what you wink to, but make sure that it's hidden from minors. A private AD account is perfect because you know who's consuming your content and the things you consume, and you can go hog wild if you want to, and you have that level of comfort. There is a potential that a minor can see that content still, but the risk is much less apparent. And I know this is such an unpopular take, but it's a take that we need to advocate for, as I think minors, especially in this fandom, are the most overlooked people here, and that their voices aren't respected. And with that, people continue to carry on a sexual nature that doesn't take into account that minors can and will be present, and that could lead them to be open about their sexual experiences and lead them to be in danger. Because let's be real, how long has it been before you've seen an adult making sexual jokes and minors following that example? I'm guilty of that. I have made my fair share of sexual remarks and made my fair share of letting the adults know I'm okay with that, and that's dangerous. In conclusion, We as creators need to be mindful of what we're putting out and take accountability when it needs to. At the same time, we need to learn that we should not have to stress and be in constant pressure of everything we do online, and most importantly, what other people do online. We do not owe people respect, our time, and especially their actions. But we must know, putting ourselves in a position where we have an audience, we have to be careful. We have to be careful with the information we spread about others, and careful of who we attract in our communities and friendships. As if you do not know how to hold your community and yourself accountable, you have the potential to foster and create an environment that's toxic. Did I leave anything out? Let me know down below in the comments. But with that, keep life lovely, and this is Novely logging off.